What's up, everybody? Welcome to, oh man, it's our final week of doing this thing. That kind of makes me sad. I didn't realize that until right before I said it. I don't know if I can carry on throughout this evening, but we're going to do our best. Thanks to everybody who is logging in. As you come on, we normally ask you an engagement question of some kind, but we felt like we could do something better to bring you joy, to bring you laughter. Still, we'd love to hear from you, so give us your name. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to take turns going all around this group of people telling our favorite dad jokes. And we want to hear your favorite dad jokes as well. So go ahead and drop them in the comments so we can read them and we can all laugh together. But some of you might be looking on here and saying, there are only 4 squares and I don't recognize one of those people and what's going on. And so we wanted to let you know right down here, Pastor Chris, our worship pastor, is on our Genesis Mosaic Live for the very first time. Welcome, Pastor Chris. Super pumped that you are here with us. Yeah, man. Pastor Jus and Pastor James are on vacation this week, so feel free to hit them up if you have followed them on social media, got their phone number, and say you missed them tonight. But without further ado, or is it further to do? I don't really know. Further to ado, let the dad jokes commence. I'm going to get us kicked off here. You guys, what does a nosy pepper do?
I don't know.
It gets jalapeno business. These are my favorite in the whole wide world. Oh,
that was bad.
Stop it.
That was good. All right. Did you guys hear about the 2 thieves who stole a calendar? They both got 6 months.
Ayo, nice. Well done. Well done.
Okay, I got one. Where do bad rainbows go?
To a pot of mold?
Prism.
Prism. Oh my God.
Prism.
That's awesome. That was a good one.
All right. What concert costs just 45 cents?
What kind of
50
concert?
cents. What concert costs just 45 cents, like money? 50 Cent featuring Nickelback.
Oh,
it's a good worship pastor joke. That was good. That was good. Does anybody know what vegetarian zombies eat?
No.
Grains.
These are awful.
Jeez Louise.
Oh, man.
You guys know what's the best part about living in Switzerland? The flag is a big plus.
That was good. That was awesome.
Why was the nose sad?
It was runny.
It was tired of getting picked on.
Gross.
Oh my gosh.
Gross.
What kind of shoes do ninjas wear? Sneakers.
Nice.
That's
Nice.
a good one.
Hey, how does a penguin build its house? It glues it together.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Why does Snoop Dogg need an umbrella?
Oh.
Oh, drizzle.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, man. I wonder if any of our students even know who that is. That's awesome.
Why did the Invisible Man turn down a job?
He
couldn't
see himself.
See himself doing it.
That's awesome.
A good one.
That's awesome.
If you see a crime,
Oh,
Go.
if you see a crime at an Apple store, does that make you an eyewitness?
well done. Well done.
What did the pirate get on his report card?
An R? I don't know.
7 stays.
7
Oh.
C's. Nice. I like it.
Jeez.
That was a good one. What is black and white and goes round and round and round? A penguin in a revolving door. All right, let's go one more time through. What you guys got? Any last minute dad jokes here?
Okay, I've got a funny one. Why did the toilet paper roll down the hill?
I don't know.
To get to the bottom.
Did you hear about the
Nuts.
circus fire?
No.
It was intense.
Oh, gosh.
Oh,
That was a good one.
that was a good one. How many bugs do you need to rent out an apartment?
How many bugs?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
10 ants. Get it? Tenants? 10 ants.
Ah, well done. That was a good one. That was a good one. All right. Last but not least, why don't skeletons ever go trick-or-treating? Because they have no body to go with.
Hey.
Hey. All right, you guys. We got some good ones coming in here. Some of these I've never heard of before. Some of these I'm pretty sure you stole from my joke journal, but that's okay. That is okay. We're going to continue tonight with our conversation on the fruit of the Spirit. We're pretty excited because we actually get to bring two to you tonight. So we have two guests that we're going to hear from, and they're two volunteers, one from St. Charles, one from Aurora. So we're going to hear about the fruit of the Spirit of peace and of self-control. And so I am wearing my camo Old Navy sweatshirt in honor of our very first guest, my good friend and one of our point leaders out in St. Charles, Mr. Rob Steffen. So everybody give it up virtually for Mr. Rob Steffen as we hear about the fruit of the Spirit of peace.
Shalom, students, pastors, and leaders. Well, my name is Rob Steffen, and I'm actually a MOSAIC point leader at the St. Charles campus. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering why I greeted you by saying shalom. And that's because this week I'm going to be taking you through the fruit of the Spirit, peace, and some of the things that I've experienced over the past few months. And actually, shalom, when we translate it from Hebrew, means peace. And I'll circle back to that in a little bit, but for now, I want to tell you a little bit why I decided to speak to you about peace. So it really has to do with the absence of peace in my life over the past few months, as I'm sure most of you can relate to that. Now, for me, in March, I was actually furloughed from my job, and I had no idea when I was going to return, and this put my family in quite a tough spot financially. For those of you who don't know, furloughed is actually when I'm still employed by my company, but I'm not actually allowed to collect a paycheck. And since we depend on my paycheck, it meant that I was no longer in control of my family's well-being. This made me really anxious. It stirred up really a lot of anger and frustration in me. And I had no idea what to do with that. So what wound up happening is I unfortunately took it out on my wife and kids. And for me, for those of you that know me, it didn't bode well for me. I was not very happy with myself during that time. You see, I no longer felt in control, and that's because, well, I never really was in control, and God quickly reminded me of that. So my own selfish pride was really the problem. Now, we never saw this coming. We never thought that we would financially have to go through something like a furlough, and I'm sure most of you didn't think we'd go through some of the things that we've gone through over the past few months. But God had kind of, in a way, already prepared me for this, and he was really just waiting for me to catch up and actually realize it. You see, back in 2017, I took a class at CCC, and it was with Pastor Clayton, and it's a class that he taught on the Pentateuch, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. I know, kind of cheesy, but I have a soft spot in my heart for the Old Testament, some amazing stories, and how God revealed things up into the coming of his son. Anyways, at the beginning of that class, he talked a lot about shalom. And in my notes, I wrote this. I'm going to read it word for word to you guys. So shalom means a universal flourishing, wholeness and delight, a rich state of affairs in which natural needs are satisfied and natural gifts fruitfully employed, a state of affairs that inspires joyful wonder as its creator and savior opens doors and welcomes the creatures in whom he delights. Shalom, in other words, is the way things ought to be. Now, to me, that sounds like true inner peace. It makes me think of safety. This puts me at ease when I think of shalom. And it even sounds restful. This is everything that I wanted to be feeling right now during all this uncertainty. But like I said, God had kind of already been preparing me. I quickly remembered that peace was more about surrender than it was control. And like I said, my pride was really getting in the way. Now in Philippians verses 4 through 7, it says this. It says, "Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." Now, I share that verse with you guys because, well, this helped me correct my posture towards God and really my negative emotions as well, too. In actuality, like I already said, we were very prepared for our financial situation. And that's because my wife and I had practiced what Paul was telling the church in Philippi. Now, over the last few years, and even longer than that, I'd say probably the past 5 to 8 years, my wife and I have been very cheerful givers with our tithe and giving that money back to God. And God has blessed us immeasurably because of that. And then we used wisdom gained from things like Financial Peace University to be able to set up things like a backup or emergency fund, as well as additional money in savings. So bottom line, we were fine financially, and that really wasn't the issue. And I found peace in that. Now, as for my anxiety and frustration, and well, anger too, well, that I had to lean into God and surrender myself in a totally different way and confess my sin and spend a lot of time meditating with God. See, what I realize is when we seek the Lord and give everyone and everything to Him, He gives us peace. When we surrender ourselves to be united with God, He gives us peace. When we finally admit that we need less of ourselves and more of Him, He fills us with His perfect peace. Psalm 85, verse 8 says this. It says, "Let me hear what God the Lord will speak, for He will speak peace to His people, to His saints, but let them not turn back to a folly." So I think that, and I'm sure the pastors would agree, that the goal in all of this, our faith, is to develop a sort of spiritual stamina so that when a problem occurs, we don't act out of emotion. We do the opposite. We act out of wisdom. And I want to challenge all of you to react to that Spirit-led impulse to act on any of the fruits of the Spirit. Because, well, I think that's how we grow closer to God and become that Christ-like character. And that all comes by the ways of the fruits of the Spirit, all of them. I also need you to think about what is really getting in the way of receiving peace from God and experiencing, like I said earlier, shalom, the way things really ought to be. Maybe it's a sin listed in Galatians 5, verses 19 through 21. 19 through 21 says, "Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissensions, divisions, envy, drunkenness, and things like these. I warn you, as I warned you before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. So, taking the time to recognize whatever sin it may be that's preventing you from receiving peace is super important. It's then when we're able to find that courage and fight against it. I think a lot of you would agree that a lot of our pastors at church have reminded us of that several times. When we speak out that sin, it frees us. And then we're able to fight against it. And I get it. Like, we hear the world around us telling us to find inner peace or peace in the midst of our circumstances. However, that never really fixes the problem. And that didn't help me either. Instead, we wind up turning to TV, movies, social media to find some sort of peace after a busy day or even a bad day. But that's really just a toxic distraction that stops us from addressing the real problem. We need to stop with the Band-Aid fixes and avoiding the problem. So what sin is getting in the way? What do you need to do right after this message, or tomorrow, or maybe even a couple times a day, to receive peace from God and develop that fruit of the Spirit? It's going to look different for everybody. I understand that. Maybe it's something like taking a moment to reflect on the attributes of God. I know that speaking that truth into our lives has a very profound effect, and I want to encourage you all to do that. Maybe it's something like, I don't know, reaching out to a point leader or a coach or one of your pastors or one of your small group leaders, someone who can listen and be objective and give you an honest answer, or just come alongside you and love you and direct you. That's what we're here for. We all want to do that. That door is always open. We're just waiting for you guys to walk into it. And maybe it's just memorizing something like a Bible verse. I know a lot of us may have a favorite Bible verse that can speak life into you, or that just speaks to you. It's a great reminder of who God is. Whatever it is, what I really want to do is encourage all of you to start doing it today. Stop waiting. Do it right now. Put a reminder on your phone. Set it up for every hour. Set it up for twice a day. Whatever it may be, start doing it today. Allow yourself to receive the peace that God has promised us. It's there. And I hope you all can find it in your own special way. And again, if you need help, please reach out. Lastly, I want to say thank you all for allowing me to share that. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
A huge thank you to Rob for walking us through that. I think peace is something that God certainly promises to his people all throughout Scripture, but it's probably something that we lose pretty often, especially in seasons like the one we've been in. And he alluded to that right at the top of the video with some of the struggles that his own family has walked through this season. So before we jump into our next video, I'd love to just kind of pass it around here to hear from some of our other pastors about their takeaways, but also some of the ways that they pursue peace in their own lives, or maybe the opposite of that, some of the things that they've experienced in their life that have robbed them of peace. So I'd love to throw it to Pastor Marcilyn to kind of kick off that conversation. Takeaways, thoughts on peace.
Yeah, this is my favorite fruit of the Spirit, because it's just something that I feel like Rob said, it's something that I have to pursue. It's something that I have to choose. It's something that I have to daily engage with, because my tendency, I think he hit it perfectly, was that idea of wanting control. And we tend to tell ourselves that we're in control. And if I feel secure, then I think that I'm at peace. And so understanding that peace isn't about my circumstances. Like, I can be peaceful regardless of whether or not I'm in a good spot or not, because it's not a worldly peace that ebbs and flows with what's going on in my life. It's a peace that comes from knowing who my Savior is, and that he sees me and knows me and takes care of me. And so that was just a really good reminder to me of, like, my peace is not contingent on the circumstances in my life. And if I feel like it is, that means it's because I'm actually gleaning a sense of control, not actual peace. And so how can I pursue the real peace that God gives to his believers, rather than this fake security and trying to control my life? So that was a good reminder. And I think something that we all need to look at in our lives and say, do I actually have peace that comes from knowing who God is and trusting that he knows who I am? Or is the peace that I think I feel in my life coming from my ability to control what's happening around me?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Chris, Gus, anything you guys want to chime in and add?
Yeah, takeaway. I think I love how towards the end of the video he talked about how we think that peace can come from, chilling, watching Netflix or scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or something, something that's relaxing. But that's not necessarily, I don't think, what God is talking about when he's talking about peace. I think it's, spending time in his word. And so I think that, trumps any other form that we might think of as peace. And so I loved how he brought that up, because I think that's important for us to know. Another thing too is I've definitely experienced anxiety, as all of us do, and will probably struggle with anxiety in the future. And a verse that actually that spoke to me in those times of feeling anxious was James 4:7. It says, "Submit yourselves then to God, resist the enemy, and he will flee from you." And so if you think about it, he also talked about, how sin can get in our lives, and that can be something that can rob our peace. But the enemy is the one who's behind that whole thing, who's robbing our peace. And so I think when I ever got in those situations where I felt anxious, I would actually say out loud, I resist the enemy, and I know that he's going to flee from me. And I actually, in the moment, would experience peace. And so that's what worked for me. But there's other things that, that might work for you guys. But for me, it was saying it out loud.
Yeah. Amen. I think for me, the takeaways, I love what he said about having a correct posture towards God and how we have to really trust. And I think at times that's played in my life, where I think that I need to have everything under control, or make sure that I have a plan for everything that's going on. And as you can tell, like over the last couple of months, we have had no control. And God is really calling us into a life where we are actually trusting in him, that he is directing our lives. And so I really love how he said that I needed to correct my posture towards trusting God and his ability to supply my every need, but also just know that he is for me and not against me. I think that sometimes we read those verses and think about them in theory, like, oh, in theory, that sounds awesome. But no, God is really for you. And he is, like, you know what I mean? And so it's like storing it in your heart and believing it even more so.
Yeah,
and so I love what Marcilyn said as well. Is like, it's something that I have to pursue. I almost take it to a step further. It's like something that I have to fight for. Like, there's some things that I'm going to have to deflect and say, no, I am saying no to arguing today, or I'm saying no to, to certain things, so that I can maintain peace in my continuing relationship with God. So absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think some of the best wisdom I've gotten related to peace is that peace is not supposed to be contingent on our circumstances. Like, peace isn't like automatically tied to the things that we're experiencing. And so, we see that even exemplified in Jesus's life. I think about when he was in the boat with the disciples and the waves are tossing the boat all over, and Jesus is asleep. Yeah, exactly.
On a pillow.
And he's at peace because he knows who's in control, and he knows that with a word, right, he can calm everything, right? Yeah. And so I think the reality for us is leaning into that. And you guys all spoke to that. This just sense of my peace comes when I'm familiar with who God is, and when I trust that he is a good God who does good things, right? And so, like, no matter what it is I'm navigating, I can lean into that. And I think that's a real valuable thing for us to experience. And I remember even in another way, I remember years ago, my wife and I were trying to make a pretty significant decision for our family. And over the course of weeks and even into months, we kept trying to figure out, like, God, what are you telling us? What are you telling us? Like, we just want you to, like, paint the answer in the sky, or, like, show me like a blue, frog today, and that will let me know, like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I remember talking with a mentor of mine and just saying, like, we can't figure this out. He told me, you need to take a step of faith. And when you're walking well with Jesus, you're going to experience peace. So if you want to know what God has for you, pursue peace, pursue proximity to who he is, and walk with him. Like, okay, I can do that. That's easier than, like, wishing for a blue frog that probably isn't going to happen, but might, right? So I think pursuing peace is a valuable thing for all of us. So good word, Rob. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for sharing your heart with us and for even sharing some wisdom that you've received from guys like Pastor Clayton and others. So appreciate you, man. Pastor Gus, you want to introduce our next video?
Absolutely. It's a great honor to introduce one of our point leaders, and to me, I call him a friend. He's my friend. So Charlie Metoyer, he is a great man of God, and I'm just excited to have you guys listen to what God put in his heart.
Hey guys, what's up? Hopefully Gus introduced me and not Josh, because you probably got something like, "What up, Chuck?" Get it? Up, Chuck? Our dad jokes are terrible. Anyways, I just wanted to say thank you to Natalie Suika real quick. I know she's been praying for me this week as I prepared, and I want her to know that I appreciate it. I needed it. Also, a quick shout out to the North Aurora girls. While I'm at the West Aurora house, we were on a Zoom call last week with those girls, and Natalie spilled the beans that I'd be talking this week. And I got a couple fist bumps. Some of you guys were pretty excited. I want you to know that gave me some encouragement to try to do my best this week. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the love. So while I am a point leader at West Aurora, ultimately I am here to love all our students. So know that I do love all of you guys. Tonight's topic is self-control. And unfortunately, my story is one of a lack of self-control. My marriage was pretty devastated in 2011 because of my lack of self-control. Don't check out on me, though, just because I said the word marriage. I found encouragement in Titus 2 these past couple weeks. It speaks about older men and women should practice self-control, and they should teach and encourage younger men and women to use self-control. And so ultimately, that's why I do this. I hope, and my prayer is that God uses me and my story to put you as students in a better place than I was at your age, and then that you can use my story or parts of it to guide you, or God uses my story to put you in a place that will just further your faith journey and your walk with Him. I'm not going to go into all the details of my story, not because I'm trying to hide anything. It's not always appropriate to go into all the details, but know that I am an open book. If you need to hear more of my story, I'm always available for a cup of coffee or a phone call. I actually find it really freeing to share my story. I feel less shame about my past every time I share my story. The truth is, my past doesn't define me anymore. That's not who I am as a person. My identity is wholly in Christ. So I feel free to share my story whenever it is appropriate. And actually, Pastor Corey talked about that at the end of his message this week, that the more you share, the more you bring in the light, the less shame you feel. And so I encourage you that if you didn't see live church this weekend or stream it live with your family, go back and check that out. His conversation about his teaching about sin and confession was really good and encouraging for me as well this week. So self-control. Self-control is defined as the victory over sinful desires. How did I get victory over my sinful desires? We'll get into that. But first, there was this little fun fact that I learned. All the other fruits of the Spirit are attributes of God, but self-control is not, because God is without sin. But as humans, we're sinful. And as Christians, we need self-control. And so I want you I wanted to share that fun fact because I thought it was interesting that everything else was like God, but not self-control, but we still need it as Christians. We need to practice it. So for me, what happened? Community happened. Community was first. I was in a men's group, and I started to change because I was seeing the way other people were doing things. We also started, my wife and I started to join a couples group, and actually the first week of our couples group, my sin was brought to the light. And it was pretty bad, but in the same sense, it was a blessing because we were in a community group and we were surrounded by people who had similar stories, who surrounded us and loved us through that process. And by the grace of God, we were able to get through that. Let me read you something from 1 Peter 5, 8, and 9. I found this to be appropriate. It reads, "Be self-controlled and alert. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him. Stand firm in the faith, because you know that your brothers throughout the world are undergoing the same kind of suffering." So I found encouragement in that. That's how I found self-control in community. Once I realized that I wasn't messed up. There was other people like me. There was other people going through the same stuff I was going through. I was able to better control the way I reacted to sin. It may look different for everyone, but sin was a problem for not just me. It was for other people as well. And so that's my encouragement to you. Stay in community. When you're connected to other believers, you guys carry each other's burdens, and it helps you to become more self-controlled. It helps you to do things differently instead of repeating the same process over and over again. Community is key. You guys are smart. You guys are good at social media and really using these Zoom calls. My students are better at than I am. You guys are good at technology. So use that to your advantage. I mean, our church has done a great job extending summer sessions for us so that you could stay connected. But I encourage you to continue to stay in community because that was one of the things that helped me maintain self-control or gain self-control really in my part of the story. The other thing that really helped me was accountability. As being part of a men's group, I quickly found an accountability partner. I've had the same accountability partner for 9 years. And accountability really is confession, bringing to light the things that you're trying to hide. Let me read Proverbs 28:13. Proverbs 28, "He who conceals his sin does not prosper, but whoever confesses and renounces them finds mercy." Once I started regularly having accountability, I started hating my sin more, right? I started being more aware of my sin patterns. And my accountability partner was amazing at pointing out things that I would, remembering to ask about things that I would share from week in and week out. Accountability is just a process of sharing your life, sharing your week, your struggles, sharing your time in the Word, sharing your sin or things that you've noticed as patterns in your life. Kevin talked about notice last week, but I learned a different acronym, HALT. H standing for hungry, A for angry, L for lonely, and T for tired. As part of a recovery program, I learned that temptation would always find me in those difficult times when I was hungry or angry. And having an accountability partner who knew that those were triggers for me, he knew to ask those things. And because I was more aware of them, I became more self-controlled. I was able to get in front of those things and know those moments when life was difficult for me. And accountability really was the second most important thing to me becoming more self-controlled and getting out of my old sin pattern, having victory over sinful desires. I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but lust was a big one for me. Anger was another one. I don't know what it is for you guys. And maybe it's gossip. Maybe it's food. Maybe it's finances, money, or the desire to have those things. But whatever it is, know that accountability and time in the Word and community will help you gain self-control on that. It's not always necessarily sinful stuff, but it could lead to sinful things. I have a story of a student who shared with me just last week. She would go to her room after dinner and plan to only do like 5 to 10 minutes of TikTok. And it ended up being midnight by the time she realized, by the time she was done on TikTok. I'm guilty of that as well. I had no TikTok until this year, and I ended up downloading it and realized quickly that, oh man, this was not a good place for me to be on a regular basis. It consumed a lot of my time. And I had my wife to correct me a few times and remind me that I was disconnecting from the family because I was spending so much time on TikTok. But as I mentioned my wife again, I'm blessed to have the wife that I have. Our restored marriage is way better than what it was the first time. It is a testament to how awesome God is. But I do have my wife, and I know that you guys aren't married. I want to encourage you to lean into people like your parents, your small group leaders, and other peers in your community groups. Like, this is my season of life, and I do have a wife to help me. Your season of life is as a student, and so use the people around you. We all struggle, and we're called to bear each other's sins. And so I pray that part of my story has encouraged you to do things differently, and that you're encouraged to seek out help from others, that you shouldn't do this alone, because community and accountability will always help you become more self-controlled. I hope you have good conversations in your groups tonight. Love you guys. Bye.
Awesome, Charlie. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Thanks for sharing your heart with us. Yeah, I think Steve mentioned it in the comments, but I think we're all pretty fortunate tonight to have heard from two really awesome dudes who love Jesus well and exemplify that in the way they live and the way that they lead. So thanks to both Charlie and Rob. Pastors, thoughts on self-control. Pastor Gus, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I love, since I met Charlie, I love his heart. One of his favorite sayings that I've adopted into my own vocabulary is Jesus loves people, therefore I love people. And he really loves everyone. And so he's been called to love all students. And so I really loved his teaching and his heart about self-control. It's something that we all need to exercise in terms of asking God to help us and guide us and lead us in those areas that we're struggling in. And like you said, it may not be sinful, but it might not be conducive to the work of the Holy Spirit in your life. It's something as simple as TikTok and scrolling through videos for 100 hours. It's not going to be so good for you. Or eating 17 cookies. That's really not going to be helpful, even though that might sound fun. So exercising self-control is something that I love. And his acronym HALT, right? Is it hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Yeah. It was something that it triggers, right? And so you begin to understand those things, and you say, okay, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? And is this why I'm reaching for these things? And so I thought it was really good, practical stuff, and I love his heart. So.
For sure. Pastor Chris, what about you?
Yeah, I think takeaway was community is key. And I love that that's in the name of our church, Christ Community. It's something that we value. And a verse that I love is in Hebrews 10. And let us consider how we may spur one another toward love and good deeds, not giving up, meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another. And so I think you can't, exercise self-control by yourself. I think, at least for me, I've learned that as I attempt to try to do it by myself, you're probably going to struggle a lot more. And so I think I think community is key. So it's great that you guys are, plugged into small groups, and you have those people, you're doing life together. And so you're able to help each other with self-control. I think another thing too is our cell phones can, another practical tool is that on iPhones, you can actually start to limit things. And, so for me, I think sometimes I had times where I was on my phone too much. And I realized that there's this, under preferences, a way to where you can give a password to somebody. They have the password and they can actually help you. And so that can help limit, on your phone. Because I think a big, hard thing in our lives is the cell phone. It is just into a world of, into worldly things. In Romans 12:1 talks about, not conforming to those patterns of the world. And so, yeah, I think the biggest thing though is community is key. And so stay plugged into your community groups, and, encourage one another, and, help each other out. That's what we're here for.
Good.
Yeah, it was a good word. I think for me, something that I don't feel like I really grew up understanding was that self-control isn't just like something that people should just do. It's actually something like, as a believer, you should be growing in. Like, as someone who has been given a new identity as a child of God, it's on me to live out this new identity, which we're learning. Part of that is that I'm growing in the fruit of the Spirit, which involves self-control. And I think I just didn't really think about it that way. And so it was like, okay, like I shouldn't eat 17 cookies because I just should eat 17 cookies, not because I'm actually practicing a fruit of the Spirit and honoring the body that God gave me and practicing the spiritual discipline. And so I think when we reframe it, it makes it a lot more serious. Like, I'm not just not spending 12 hours on TikTok because I could probably do something different with my time. It's no, by making this choice, I'm practicing my muscles of spiritual discipline. I'm looking more like Jesus in my pursuit of him. And I think it really changed how I went about it. Because if I said, well, I shouldn't eat 17 cookies, but then I do, it's like, well, there's always tomorrow. But now it's like, no, I actually had the option to honor Jesus and to make a choice to live out this life he's called me to. And I didn't do that. And then that becomes sin that I need to confess, and I need to look at my heart. And so I love that we're talking to our students about this, because I don't think that was something that I even really grasped until I was an adult, of like, these small choices that I make throughout my day are turning me into the person that God made me to be. I'm looking more and more like Jesus the more that I practice self-control in all areas of my life. And so that was a good reminder of, like, in the small things and in the big things, this is a fruit of the Spirit that when we are reborn as Christ followers should be exemplified in us. We should be growing in these areas all the time. And so I just love that that's a way to reframe self-control. It's not just like a good thing, but something that we should constantly be pursuing in pursuit of Jesus.
No, it's good. That's good. Yeah, I think the thing to remember about self-control is there's two sides to the coin, if you will, of self-control. There's our own will, like there's our own putting to death of the things of the flesh, right? Like that's clearly in the New Testament in particular. That's a call that we have as Christians, to put to death the things that were from our old life. But there's also a need for us to like lean into some supernatural assistance with that, right? Because I think sometimes we can feel so defeated in our lack of self-control because we make it all about like white knuckling our way into like doing good stuff or not doing bad stuff, right? And so when we make it all about us, the reality is we're finite creatures. It means we just have limitations, right? So like mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually even, we have limitations. And so it becomes an innate need as we surrender our lives to Christ to live in light of his righteousness, but also under the power of the Spirit that's alive within us. So we can wake up every day and say, God, I want to live like Christ today, but I recognize that without your power at work within me, I can't. Right? I can't, right? And so I think there's a need for us to both participate and rest, right? Rest in the power of God at work within us. And so I think those are really, really good things for us to take away from tonight. Two really awesome words. Again, super grateful to Charlie and Rob, to Kevin, to Abby, to who else am I missing that shared all of their hearts with us. We're super grateful for you guys. Thankful for
Bailey.
Thankful for you. Yeah, Bailey and Rachel Blahnik, right? So everybody from week 1. So yeah, anyway, I'm super grateful for you guys. Thankful for you, everybody who shared over the course of the last few weeks. I hope you students were encouraged as well. Even though this marks the end of our 4-week additional summer season, we encourage you to continue to pursue truth. You guys have connections via your community groups and all that kind of stuff. Press into those and continue to pursue God. We've got Mega Camp in a Box Palooza Fest coming up, which is going to be pretty rocking. So tune into that for sure. But before we get to any of that, before I forget a second time, we have a game we want to play with you guys. So to the fun Gus among us, please lead us.
Awesome. All right. You guys can see the game pin that's there, 872665. Let's log in. I have a fun game. It's called the Super Duper Crazy Bizarre Informational Bazinga Quiz. It's kind of like Mega Camp in a Box Palooza Fest. It rolls right off your tongue. And so I think the question we had going was different. If you had $5 and needed to spend it somewhere, where would you spend your $5 at?
Taco Bell.
You go to Taco Bell right now?
We're back to Taco Bell.
What can you get at Taco Bell for $5? Like 5 things off their
dollar menu.
Ton of things.
Is the dollar menu still in existence?
Yeah, in fact, they have things on the dollar menu that aren't even $1.
Are they less than $1?
You get a churro for $1?
I don't know.
I didn't even know that Taco Bell had churros.
Somebody said there's a lot of $5 boxes.
Twists.
That's
the cinnamon twists are good.
Nobody probably knows this, but I'm originally from Oklahoma, and Taco Bueno is kind of like our version of Taco Bell, which Taco Bell is everywhere, but Taco Bueno is pretty legit. There's this thing called a party burrito.
A party burrito. That's it. You sold me. I was like, wait a minute. Where can we go?
I don't care if it's filled with tofu.
Cents.
Oh my goodness.
So
let's go.
When's the last time you had a party for 89 cents?
Well, yesterday, because I'm actually in Oklahoma right now.
That's awesome.
He was eating one before we started. He's like, I gotta finish my party burrito.
That's awesome.
We got a party pack. You get 10 for like $6 or something like that. So
that's funny. All right, we're gonna get started, guys, on the Super Duper Crazy Bizarre Informational Bazinga Quiz. Here we go. And I hit start. Okay, here we go. 13 questions. Are you ready? Yes, we are. Here we go. In 2006, a man tried to sell New Zealand on eBay. At what price did eBay shut the sale down? 1,200,000, 10,000, 3,000. I don't think he got far. I think someone
200,000.
He got to 200. You saying 200?
So.
I just feel like even if it's fake, like I want to feel like I have the authority to sell New Zealand.
3,000. They shut him down at 3,000.
Good job, eBay.
Yeah, they listen to Pastor Josh. Look at that. All right, Brave Ferret is on the leaderboard here. Here we go. Next question. During the search for the Loch Ness Monster in 2004, how many golf balls did scientists find?
Oh my goodness.
1,000,000, 100,000, 5,000, 3,562. That's a real.
100,000.
That's a real number. That 35, 62 sounds like a real chance.
But they might have just rounded it for the sake of posting the number.
True.
Yeah, it'd be weird if they counted all of them.
And here's environmentalists would have not let 1,000,000 golf balls in the sea. 100,000. 10 people got the right answer.
Why are they like scraping the bottom of the lake to find a giant monster?
Eggs,
I don't know.
fossils,
Noble
teeth,
giraffe.
scales. All those live at the bottom of lakes.
Where is the only McDonald's in the world with a turquoise M?
Seattle.
No, I know this one. I don't.
You had me convinced.
Yeah.
Sedona?
You're making that up. You have no idea.
I'm
telling you. No either. That didn't work.
Boo. Is Sedona in Arizona? No, Italy.
Sedona?
So don't know.
Right.
I told you, man. I knew this one.
Well, you said you knew it, and then you weren't quite sure.
No, I was. Sometimes my brain thinks like that. Okay, Noble Giraffe still in the lead at 29-17. Here we go. What was the first ever Disney film? You guys know this.
I know this one.
I know Marcilyn knows this one.
Oh man.
Okay, so funny question. Don't ask questions. I was writing out Disney trivia for my own personal use today, and this was one of the questions, but it wasn't even, it's not even the right answer. There was like a precursor that nobody knows about. So there's like before even the first one.
So is the right answer on this quiz?
And it happens on the tugboat.
It's inside
Absolutely
out.
correct one is not on this quiz, but the like commonly accepted one is on this list.
That is correct.
Okay.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Now, was it the little mouse on the tugboat?
It was like Persimmon or something like that. Was
Yeah.
like a pre-release to Snow White that was like a trial run, but then they count Snow White as like the official first Disney film.
Got it. Noble Giraffe still in the lead, 29-17. Here we go. Question number
It's like they
5.
haven't
What
gotten
did
any of them right
Neil
last time.
Armstrong first walk on the moon? What? What day did
Day.
Okay, Neil Armstrong. Well, this is a conspiracy
Come on,
theory.
Gus. Hit us
no,
up, bro.
I
Hit
do
us
not
up.
believe
I
it. Look
do.
at this picture. Who took the picture? Someone had to be there before, man. Someone literally had to be on the moon to take this picture. Who was there?
Gus, hashtag
Guys.
shot on iPhone, bro. All right.
Conspiracy theory. I don't know. I don't know this one.
I think it was 1960.
It's July. Yeah, July 21st, 1969. Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
What? All right.
Ty
If you,
Hall's
guys,
calling you out.
if you guys actually believe that we went to the moon and we don't have the records of how to get back up there
Next
and we haven't
question,
been
Gus.
sorry.
Next
All right, my bad.
Pastor Gus's
question.
views do
All
not represent Christ Community Church.
Uh-oh.
Karen Griffin takes the lead, 3803.
Oh, man.
How old is the oldest cow?
Holy cow.
Holy cow.
Hey.
Hey, her name is Bertha. Oh no. Yeah.
That was the name of my last car.
I had a
Is
big
it like-
Bertha as well.
Like cow years or
Oh,
Cows
good
don't have
question.
cow years.
Dude, you're from Oklahoma. You should know this.
I'm saying 48.
Ooh, that was
76.
good. It's actually, I'm looking at a cow right now.
Exactly.
Oh my
You should
goodness.
know cow years versus dog years.
I'm telling you, it's a thing.
76? Oh, 48.
48.
Wow.
Called it.
Mhm.
You think the older the cow gets, the more sour its milk gets? It's like
Mm.
cottage cheese at some point. Just gross.
I remember when I
What?
was a young calf.
Oh.
Noble Giraffe regains the lead, 47-01. Here we go, guys. Question 7. Do lobsters have green blood?
What?
They
I
don't
think
have
that's
any
true.
blood. They
Sometimes.
don't have any blood. Their whole body is liquid
yeah.
until you boil them, I think.
Whoa.
Their whole
that was
body
intense.
is liquid. No, they have muscle. That's what you eat.
Yeah, but it's like I don't know how to explain it, but
I
anyway.
It's liquid
Sometimes.
until you.
I guess you were Marcilyn.
Wow.
She's on it.
I feel like sometimes it maybe should have gotten that right too, because technically they
You're
said yes.
correct.
Noble Giraffe still in the lead, 57-29. Question 8. Here we go. What percentage of the world's population has green eyes? This one is a very low number. We're looking at about 2%.
Green eyes and ham. Am I right?
I'm saying 14%.
We're done with the
Ooh.
dad jokes.
Oh,
One more
we're
dad.
done. I thought that was still a thing.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
man.
Did you go with 14 because it's green?
No, I should have.
Ooh, that'd be clever.
I just feel like 2% is too low. Like I feel like I wouldn't know someone with green eyes.
But it's
If-
a mutation of color, both blue and come on, you guys, I'm telling you.
Pastor Gus.
No, Gus, you don't get to tell us anything. You just said lobsters are liquid, okay? Don't pretend like you're the expert here.
I'm telling you, there's something
Oh my
about
goodness.
boiling them that brings them to be
Life?
No.
edible. Anyway, here we go. Question 9. How many times do you breathe in a day?
Ooh. Wow. That's a good question.
Mm.
That it has to be
Oh,
500.
this guy's breathing in a bag.
I also feel like it should be how many breaths do you take? Because how many times do you breathe? You're always breathing. there's not like a number to that.
Well, wouldn't that constitute a breath?
Correct.
Are you breathing if you're not taking a
It
breath?
counts breathing in or the breathing out, because that's the process of breathing.
Whoa, that's pretty
I think
low.
one full
think-
cycle is a breath. 20,000?
Does that feel low? Like how many seconds? How many breaths per second would that be?
How many times do you blink in a day?
Oh, I don't know.
Noble
That's
Giraffe
allergies
still in the
Too much
lead.
science.
83-63. Here we go. Question 10. Is a lightning bolt hotter than the sun?
No, there's no way. People have been struck by
Absolutely.
lightning. Wouldn't they have just
Did
like
you
burst
just
into
say that was
flames?
true?
And let me tell you something. They were really shocked.
Ew.
Come on.
Oh man.
That was
They
good.
probably bolted from the scene after getting struck too.
Oh, good one.
Hey. Hey.
They were pretty electrified after that.
Oh my gosh, stop
The
it.
dad jokes are over.
The two dads on the team. What did you expect?
It
Here
is.
you go.
It said yes.
It
That's
said yes.
crazy.
It is hotter than the sun? Oh,
I
wow.
feel
I
like
didn't.
you- Yeah. How is that? How is that possible?
I don't know. You'd be burnt to a
With
crisp.
so much less of a concentration, you'd think it would.
Yeah.
That doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
Noble Giraffe still in the lead, 98-46. Here we go, 11 of
Noble
13.
Giraffe.
How fast is the Earth's rotation in miles per hour, if you actually believe it?
Fast. If you believe that the earth rotates,
You
did you say
actually believe
that?
No, I didn't say that. If you have any questions, please email Pastor. No, I'm just kidding.
Email theology at ccclife.org.
1,000, right? Yeah.
The answer is
Come on.
1,000.
But yet
Man,
we
that's
don't
fast.
feel it. How come we don't feel moving at 1,000 miles an hour? And how come
Gravity,
the
bro.
water? Okay, here we go.
Oh,
Noble Giraffe still in the lead. We got a close second with Caring.
come on,
Dog.
caring dog.
What percentage of your bones are in your feet? A lot.
Whoa, percentage of your bones.
14.
5%.
So one.
It's kind of like your wrist. You know how you have all these little bones in your wrist and in your hands? Bones are that way too.
Gus is a scientist.
I
He
think
is.
he just says things authoritatively, whether it's correct or not.
25%,
Listen,
that's a lot.
Wow.
I told you.
That's a lot.
I said 14, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. I don't know how I know these things, but I do. It's weird.
Man,
Some say I'm smart.
Oh my gosh.
you are smart, Gustard.
I know the draft
Thanks,
is
man.
at this
Final
point.
question. What is the
Well,
first
what
question
was
to
the
this quiz?
Oh man.
eBay question.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think so.
All right.
It was the McDonald's question. And Sonoma is in Arizona. Someone corrected me. I
Sedona?
thank you. Sonoma, thank you. Whoever said that to me, I appreciate you. I was thinking Arizona, Italy, but I got it. It was on the first try. All right. Here we go.
Metacarpals and phalanges. That's all the bones that make the feet.
eBay. Here we go, guys. The winner. En tercer lugar, which means third place. Helpful Lemur, third place. Caring Dog
Caring Dog.
came in second. And Noble
Noble
Giraffe.
Giraffe.
Dang.
Noble
Yeah,
Giraffe. Identify
Smart.
yourself in the comments. 12 to
Jirafa
13.
Noble. Jirafa
That
Noble.
is
It
a
comes
lot of
from
right answers.
aristocrat giraffe lineage.
Noble Giraffe, let us know who you are. Hit us up in the comments, and we will send you a giraffe. So that'll be great. You're welcome for that. Thank you all for participating. Thanks to Pastor Gus for leading us in these games week in and week out, and for dropping some sick knowledge on us all the time. All the time. You guys, super thankful for you. Thanks for logging in. Thanks for tracking with us throughout this really odd season of ministry. Certainly, none of us saw this coming, but we have peace and we have hope, and we trust that God knew this was coming, and we trust that God is working in all of this. And so we're thankful for that. And thankful for you. Thanks to our small group leaders for being faithful and leading and shepherding students week in and week out. Thanks to moms and dads and other parents and guardians who have allowed your students and even possibly facilitated your students jumping onto these calls and participating week in and week out. And thanks to our pastors. Thanks to all of you guys. Thanks to Jus and James. Thanks to Nick, the man behind the technology who keeps us visible and hearable. Is that a thing? each and every week. Super thankful for everyone and all their participation in this. Mega Camp in the Box Palooza Fest is coming up. You are not going to want to miss it. Even if you didn't register, you can still watch our teachings every day during that week. And so we are excited to share that with you guys and hopeful that you will participate with us. That's all I've got. Any parting shots from you guys? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys at camp. I think it's going to be awesome. And so I'm looking forward to that and joining us for that. Keep your head up. Keep prayed up. Keep studying your word. And if you need us, we're around. Hit us up. We're here. We love you guys.
For sure. Peace out, everybody. Thanks for being here. I don't know what that was. That was me like splashing.